How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. We have a lot of good news to cover here today. And I realize crypto's not really moving, but there's a lot happening in macro that is really good, and it's good for the overall market as well. The stock market's racing up today, depending on what you're in. If you're in the Dow, it's barely moving, maybe even a little bit red. But the NASDAQ is racing up today for a couple different reasons, and there's a lot of good news coming out. I want to cover that for you here today. And if you don't mind, hit subscribe underneath the video, turn on that bell notification, hit the like button if you like this kind of stuff, and let's get into it. So as you can see, crypto's not really moving too much today. Honestly, it's just kind of a quiet time. Don't be surprised if this continues, because the fact is that typically happens in the pre-halving year. However, you don't have to look far to see some alpha. There's a lot of movement on the NASDAQ here today, up 1.89%. There are a couple different reasons for this. Yesterday, we covered that inflation seems to be coming down a little bit, and I gave you some numbers that were happening behind the scenes. I also talked about some other bullish stuff that's been happening in the market. So if you haven't seen that video, I would suggest it. We're starting to see something really fascinating, though. The market is pricing in a 50% chance of a 25 basis point hike at the next meeting. Typically, this would be really bad for the market. However, the NASDAQ's up right now. How is this possible? How are we up 2% on a day where the market is pricing in that we're going to have to raise rates? And we're seeing the DXY move up pretty significantly over the last couple weeks. We're also seeing treasuries move up. But there's some good news out there, which is causing people to want to buy equities again. U.S. jobless claims comes in at 229,000 versus 245K expected. So the job market is still really strong. If they raise 25 basis points, that's really not going to affect jobs at this point, it seems like. GDP comes in at 1.3% versus 1.1% expected. The economy is still strong and growing. Surprisingly, when they've been trying to tighten this much, we have still seen people go out and spend. People continue to grow their businesses. And this is quite good. I mean, a couple of months ago, maybe 6 months ago, we would have seen these numbers and been scared to death that inflation was going to tick up. That was the big narrative, was that we're going to have inflation go down, the Fed was going to lower rates, and then inflation was going to move right back up, and we're going to see one of the worst recessions we've ever seen. However, the Fed has stayed really strong on their stance, fighting inflation, not giving up really an inch. And at the same time, the market has been moving up recently, pricing in the fact that we might not even have a recession because everyone is still doing so well. Now, PCE prices came in as expected, 4.2%, but core PCE prices came in at 5% versus 4.9% expected. So a little bit higher than expectations. We do have CPI coming in a few weeks, which will be right ahead of the next meeting, I believe. So we'll have to pay attention to that. Another thing that might be pushing up the market is the fact that it seems like they're really close to a deal on the debt ceiling. This is one of the things that was causing the market to fall earlier this week. But Joe Biden and Kevin McCarthy are apparently getting very close to the deal. The reason they say this is that they're just $70 billion apart on a total figure that will be well over $1 trillion. So we're talking 7% or less difference. And honestly, if they had to come to a deal, sounds like they would be able to at this point. Just a question of hammering out the final details. We still might have to wait a few days on it. Don't be surprised if there's some fear on it. But right now, it seems like this is going to happen. And, that's why I've said for the last week, when we started to see a little bit of red in the market, I think that's a good thing. That's a buying opportunity when you see that on something like this. That's pretty much a dead bang lock that U.S. isn't going to default on their debt. So I think that this has been a good time to be buying. And all this has kind of combined into the market moving up. Now, the NASDAQ is still down significantly from the high. So if you look a year back, we're almost at the 1 year high. We're down like 3%. But if you look back a little bit further, back in 2021 at the peak, we actually went up to 16,200. We're still down about 22%, 21% from that point. If we go back up to all-time highs, that's 27% from here. We would move up 27%. So if you have been buying this dip, you're probably feeling pretty good right now because you're up. If you had bought towards the bottom, you'd be up 20% or so. Year to date, the NASDAQ's up 23%. That being said, though, we could still move up a lot. There's still a lot of stocks that are beaten down. Now, one stock that is not beaten down, Nvidia. Nvidia has been bringing up this market as well, up 26% here today, partly because they've just crushed earnings. They had a beat on revenue. They had a beat on EPS. They had great gross margin. And they're also expecting $11 billion next quarter versus the $7.2 billion that Wall Street was expecting. So year to date, this is up 167%. It's going to be the next trillion-dollar company. A lot of this is due to AI. They're selling a lot of chips to AI companies. They're trying to continue to grow and spend more, be able to run more models. So Nvidia has done extremely well. I mean, if you look 5 years ago, right, you would be up 515% over the last 5 years. Now, personally, I think this is trading at a pretty rich valuation here. If we expect $10 billion a quarter at multiple of 25 price to sales ratio, that's very expensive. Now, that being said, they're growing really quickly. So maybe that's a part of your portfolio that you want to have that's growing that quickly, that's in AI, but is kind of a picks and shovels play. I'm watching it, but at this point, I don't think I'm going to be purchasing any because it is up a lot recently. Now, there's still some stocks that have not hit all-time highs, as we know, because the NASDAQ's still down, like I said, 22% from the high. There's still some stocks that are kind of left in the dust. I like Tesla stock a lot, and it's still down. Still down at $184 from the peak of about $407. So down 55%. They're still growing very quickly though too. I just wanted to throw it out there. Now there are also cryptos that are down a lot. Obviously Bitcoin's still down a lot. I think this is just an accumulation zone for Bitcoin leading up to the next halving. There's still some things that the crypto industry is fighting that the general market isn't. For example, choke point 2.0, regulation, all that kind of stuff. But this is one more reason again that we want to have Bitcoin. UK bank NatWest wants 24 hours notice and documentation to justify cash withdrawals over £2,000. They also say in some instances we may choose to decline the cash withdrawal based on the information provided surrounding the transaction. So if you're doing something that they don't want you to do, or you're withdrawing it for a reason that they don't want you to withdraw for, they can just say no, you can't have your cash, which is kind of crazy. Now, overall, I think it's another good day for the market. Even if the crypto market isn't moving up, if you look at pairs, right? If you look at the total crypto market cap versus the NASDAQ, if the NASDAQ moves up and the crypto market doesn't, the crypto market looks undervalued. And as time goes on, it will move up eventually. So some things move at different times than others. Now let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you want me to cover more stocks too, just let me know in the comment section, especially when the crypto market's a little bit quiet. Happy to do that because I do invest pretty heavily in stocks as well as crypto.